I met Milou by chance. It was one of those soft gray afternoons when the sky can't decide whether to rain or sleep. I had taken a wrong turn while hiking in southern France, one of those overgrown trails that disappears beneath moss and memory, and stumbled upon a forgotten village map pinned beneath a rusted nail. The map wasn't new, nor was it old. It was simply there, as if it had waited. Milou's name was written in the corner, delicate cursive. Guide disponable, Milou D. At first I assumed she was a park guide or maybe someone who volunteered to help lost travelers. I dialed the number. The line clicked before the first ring. Yes? Her voice sounded like it had traveled far, over stone bridges, through foggy woods, and across time. Within the hour, I met her. She was waiting beneath an arched willow, where the path curved beside a small, still lake. Dressed simply, hair like polished wood, eyes too knowing for her age. "I don't usually guide anymore," she said, barely looking at me. "But the trail called you, didn't it?" That should have made me pause. But I was tired and curious. And something about her felt like a story I had once forgotten. She turned and walked, and I followed. We moved through woods older than maps. The air smelled of pine, wet stone, and something faintly sweet, like dried flowers pressed in antique books. Milou walked ahead barefoot, her steps silent on the damp earth. She didn't speak much, only pointed now and then. "That's where the bell tower used to be. There was once a bakery here. The boy who owned it fell in love with a ghost." She said it so casually, like someone recalling favorite books. I didn't press, I just listened. The ruins emerged slowly, not grand, just whispers of buildings, outlines of homes, foundations drowned in ivy, a stone well covered by rusted bars, a row of broken chairs beside an empty chapel. "Why was this place abandoned?" I asked. She paused. "They say the river changed its path, flooded the village one spring. But the truth is harder to say." "What truth?" "That some places die when people forget how to grieve them." Her words wrapped around me like mist. That night I returned to the cabin I had rented a few miles out. My phone had no service. My GPS spun like a compass gone mad. I couldn't even find Milou's number in my call log. The next day I returned to the trail, not because I meant to, but because I had to. She was waiting again, in the same place. "Same willow, same stillness. You came back? Why do I feel like I know this place?" She tilted her head. "Maybe you do. Memory isn't only yours, you know. Sometimes it belongs to the land." Over the next 3 days I returned again and again. Each time she showed me more. A window frame, a collapsed roof, a grave marker half swallowed by earth. One afternoon, I noticed something new, an old photograph wedged in a tree trunk. I pulled it free. It was blurred from age and water, but the man in the image looked like my father, and beside him, unmistakably, stood Milou. I didn't sleep well that night. I kept hearing bells, soft, uneven, like they were underwater. When I finally drifted off, I dreamed of the village, but it wasn't ruined anymore. It was alive. Windows glowed, smoke curled from chimneys. Music floated through the air like mist. Milou was there, but she wasn't guiding. She was dancing, and people were watching her with eyes full of sorrow. I woke at dawn, drenched in sweat. My room felt colder than it should have. That morning, I found my father's old journals, stored in a box I hadn't opened in years. He had spent time in France after college, traveling and grieving the loss of his sister. The pages were filled with sketches and maps. One entry caught my eye. Near Lac de Verre. Forgotten village. Girl named Milou. She said she'd take me to the past. Don't follow. Not yet. The date was 1971. I returned to the trail that afternoon, but Milou wasn't waiting. The willow stood alone. I called for her. Waited. Nothing. Then I saw footprints. Bare, small, heading into the trees. I followed. The forest closed around me like a mouth. It took hours, or maybe minutes. Time bent strangely. There. But eventually I found it. The village. Whole again. Not ruins. Not ghosts. Just life. Milou stood in the square. You shouldn't be here yet, she said. But you've always been drawn to broken things. Is this real? Does it matter? She took my hand, and for a moment I wasn't myself. I was someone else, someone older, someone who had made a promise to come back, to finish what was started. I opened the door without thinking. By the time I stepped outside, the fog had thickened to a wall. The air felt wet against my skin, and the world had gone utterly quiet. No wind, no owls, no distant highway hum. Just silence. Milou stood at the edge of the garden path, her hands folded in front of her like a child at confession. Behind her, the drowned ones waited, figures in tattered clothes, their faces calm and unreadable. I didn't run. I didn't even ask why she was there. I just whispered, "It's time, isn't it?" She nodded once. I followed. We walked through the forest, deeper than I'd ever gone. The moon hung low, a pale coin in the sky, and the trees creaked like old doors shifting on hinges. Milou said nothing. Neither did the dead behind her. They moved with her, like shadows that had found their light again. After what felt like an hour, the fog began to thin. I saw a glint of water through the trees, then a stone cross half swallowed by moss. Then I saw it. The village. It shouldn't have been there. I knew that. But it was half-sunken homes, iron gates twisted by time, stone walls protruding like ribs from the marsh, a crooked church, its steeple leaning toward the water like it was listening. I felt the pressure in my ears shift, like I was underwater but still breathing. Milou led me down a slope into the heart of the village. "We're not far," she said quietly. "Far from what?" "From the choice." She brought me to a house. Small, crumbling. Ivy growing through the roof. Inside it smelled of riverstone and forgotten air. The walls were lined with pictures, faded, wet, and ruined. But I recognized the faces. My father, his father, and Milou. Always. Milou. A photo of her at 12, another of her older, then again younger, as though she had no age at all, only forms. Milou stepped toward an old armoire and pulled out a wooden box. She opened it slowly. Inside was a child's toy boat, rotted from damp. A letter with my father's handwriting, and a lock of dark hair, tied in a faded red ribbon. "I was the price," she said softly, her voice trembling for the first time. I looked at her. "I don't understand." She looked at me, eyes wide and wet. "In 1971, your father came here lost and grieving. He had just buried his sister. He wandered into the drowned village looking for answers, but he found me. I was already dead. But I remembered things. I remembered him. From before. From long before." She stepped toward me. "He made a wish, a prayer, to bring someone back. But wishes like that, they always cost something." I could barely speak. "He traded you?" She nodded once. "And now?" She placed the toy boat in my hand. Now the debt returns. She held out her hand again, this time not as a stranger, but as family. My name was Emilou By, she said softly. Your grandfather's first daughter, born out of wedlock, hidden away, forgotten in shame. I was your aunt. The truth split the earth beneath me. You brought me here, I said. She nodded. Because I needed you to remember. Behind us, something stirred. Something hungry. I held the toy boat to my chest, trembling. I looked at her. Does it hurt? No, she said. Do you regret it? She paused. Only the forgetting. I stepped forward. The house closed behind me, and the drowned began to sing. They found me the next morning, lying beside the lake, shoes soaked, hands scraped, eyes wide open and unblinking. They said the cold could make people forget things. That hallucinations were common in isolation, but I remembered everything. The village was gone. Even in satellite photos, there was nothing but swamp. But I could still feel the moss-covered stones. Still hear the faint hymns of the drowned. Only the lock of hair remained, tied with a red ribbon found folded in my coat pocket the morning after. Sometimes I still hear her voice. Not in words, but in the hush before sleep. She was simply waiting to be remembered, and in some quiet way I think I freed her, or maybe she freed me. Now when I dream, it's of water, but it no longer drags me under. It carries me. And in the middle of that dream, where the fog thins and memory meets moonlight, she's there, walking just ahead of me, always looking back to make sure I'm not alone. I met Milou by chance. I tell people when they ask why I changed, why I look at lakes a little longer, why I never walk into the woods without folding a paper boat first. But that's not the truth. I didn't meet her by chance. I met her because she never stopped waiting.